everyone, and welcome to RugbyPass Offload. We're back for episode 2 with myself, Christina Mahan, and I'm also joined by two of our regular panel in Dylan Hartley and Jamie Roberts. Welcome, gentlemen.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How has your week been?
Oh God, I've been pretty busy. I'm still playing. Dylan has got his feet up, no doubt. But we had a game Friday night, which was good. We had a good win. And then just recovering. I'm still recovering. It takes me 4 or 5 days, maybe a bit longer to recover from games now. Not like I was when I was 21. So I haven't trained so much this week. Just getting back to it.
What about you, Dylan? Have you been up to much?
Honestly, not too much. Jamie, you missed out the fact that you're man of the match in your game. Sure, you've been lauding it around Newport.
Mate, I tell you what, I haven't. Straight home after the game. Gone are the days where you can go and celebrate those things with a few beers down the local. There's literally change rooms after the game, straight home, which is one of the things I'm struggling with at the minute. Like, there's no meeting the lads for a few drinks and meet some fans. There's literally change room. It's just so transactional, kind of feels weird. Yeah, you just finish the game, in the change room, shower, in your car, go home.
It probably does start to make you question why you play the game, right? Like, because honestly, when I first started playing, and one of the biggest things or most enjoyment I got out of it was when you worked towards something and you won that game. And equally, when you lost the game, at least you're kind of sharing it with people, and you still got that social kind of connection. So surely, like, going and playing now when you don't have those social connections and it's not the spectacle that it once was, does it genuinely make you question?
Mate, without a doubt. So I completely agree with you. I like the whole social aspect of rugby is just gone during this pandemic. You know, obviously, training is quite social and stuff, but even sharing moments with fans after the game. You'd have played at Northampton for years. I remember us having a chat after a game at Northampton once, and you're in amongst all the corporates, you're in amongst fans, and everyone's kind of, you can have a chat with everyone and share those games and share those moments with fans, which is brilliant. And obviously there's none of that as well. So it kind of feels like a training run when an opposition side comes and trains against you. That's what it feels like.
There's obviously lots to get through this week, but we're going to start with the Heineken Champions Cup final at Ashland in Bristol. How do you guys see it panning out?
Well, first of all, look, Racing have lost this thing twice in 2016 and 2018. And so 2 years later, they find themselves in another final. I think they're more mature. I think the side is, players within that side have grown. And I just think it's their time. I really do think it's their time. However, they're against a side in Exeter that... Like, I watched that Bath-Exeter semi-final the other day, and I actually backed Bath. I thought Bath really had the pack and had the game to go to Sandy Park and win. If there was any side that could challenge Exeter up front, it would be Bath. And it was a 35-point game. and Bath didn't score a try. So it's just a formidable final, isn't it? I think the weather, if it's dry, I just see so many attacking threats in Racing. Vakatawa for me is one of the standout players in World Rugby, if not the best player in World Rugby this year. And he can cause problems for Exeter in the wiser channels. But Exeter is just this machine, mate. Dills, you would have played against Exeter for near on a decade. They're just this machine. How do you stop them?
They're just this really pragmatic machine. They've got really good set piece, and they've got a little bit of stardust out wide. But I think the biggest thing that I noticed with Exeter, and it's really obvious, they convert every time that they kind of enter an opposition 30, 20, 22 or 5 meters out. They always leave with something. When I look at the two, and I acknowledge your point about Racing have been there, and you look at drivers like experience, like they've lost the final a couple of times. So they've got that kind of emotional driver to kind of finally get it over the line. But then, if I'm honest, like, I'm firmly an Exeter fan, because I think English rugby, especially on the European stage, for a few years now, has been waiting for someone to fly the flag. We've struggled for a while, other than Saracens. So it's just good to see another English team there. I just hope it's not just getting there to the finals enough for them. I just hope that it's not this occasion that they're not ready for, like Racing have experienced before. And I firmly hope and support that Exeter kind of do it.
Would you say that it's going to be a big advantage for Exeter that the final is in Bristol?
Yeah, look, I think it's an advantage. Obviously, there's no crowd, so I think if there was a crowd, it would play into Exeter's hands. I mean, one thing for sure, Exeter played Bristol away about a month ago in the Premiership, so a few of those players would have experienced Ashland Gate, the surface, the setup there. But yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. The other thing I love about Exeter is the way, Dylan's alluded to, they convert. If they have a penalty, even on the 22, and you're just thinking, right, take the points. It'll be interesting to see whether they do this in the final, whether they still kick to touch. It happened on the weekend. They could have taken an easy 3, just keep the scoreboard ticking. Knockout rugby is that old cliche, but Exeter still kick for the corner because they back their drive. They back being 5-10 meters out so much that they would rather roll the dice and try for 7 rather than a guaranteed 3. I really, really wonder whether they have the plums to do that in a Champions Cup final. It's going to be fascinating. I think if it's dry, I think Racing have the power to do it. I think they have the game plans to. I think they have the game changes to do it. But I think if it's drizzly, if it's wet, I just see more strength at halfback for Exeter. I think their experience, this machine we talk about, is just more suited to the wet conditions.
I love your point around like how they put pressure on the opposition by going to the corner, but it's almost like psychological warfare. And knowing a few of their guys, and they've explained this theory to me, it's not applying pressure to the opposition; it's applying pressure to themselves. Like how many teams when they get awarded a penalty, they kind of step back and let their fly half kick that 3. Whereas Exeter kind of gather around, they say, all right, let's convert this to 5 to 7. They put that pressure on themselves to come away with a try. And if you look at like their ferocity of how they ruck, and especially when they're 5 meters out, how they commit numbers to the ball carry, the latch, the clearer, like they put that kind of pressure on themselves to convert. And 9 times out of 10, they come away. Yeah. And even if they don't, you look at possession stats, like they have minutes on the ball, they have territory stats, and all that has like a psychological impact on the opposition. But equally, like the flip side of that is, on that 1 or 2 chances that defending team can kind of keep that effort out, it's a massive boost to that side as well.
Exactly. But if there's ever a side to do it, it's Racing, because their pack is monstrous and they've got some players over the ball in that pack.
And just while we're still on Racing, who are the characters in the Racing squad?
Oh God, characters. I was there. I played there with Johnny Sexton. Look, there's the French guys. I couldn't understand what was going on half the time because they all operate in French. But you look at someone like Teddy Thomas, is horizontal. Like that guy is like doesn't even need to try to look good, if that makes sense. I remember Virami Vakatawa being this academy kid who couldn't speak French, he couldn't speak English. He just rocked into training and carved everyone up. And the lads just thinking, who the hell is this guy? We'd be doing backs unit sessions and this guy would be just making us all look like idiots with his footwork and his lines. And he was 18, 19 at the time. And here he is, for me now, one of the world's best players. And it's brilliant to see how far he's come. And there's a core of that group still there. Henri Chamoncy, club captain, he's been there, he's a cheeky chap. He's been there since he's academy lad. Wan him off. He's a bit of a joker on the winger. Again, one of the best players in world rugby for me. Fantastic finisher. Max Machino at 9, who's having to play for his position with Teddy Iribaren, who's a wonderful scrum half as well. They just added depth. And, again, Camille Chat, Jesus Christ. I mean, that guy has probably tripled in size since I last saw him. Absolute menace, a ball carrier and over the ball. Probably Dills. I mean, Dills, you play hooker. I mean, this guy, is the role of the hooker changing now? Because that Camille Chat, he plays like a back rower.
It changed when I was bloody playing. That's why everyone was kind of, I felt the pressure to, like the microscope was always on me because I couldn't do what every other young hooker was doing. But for years now, I think the hooker position, as long as you can throw, scrummaging's changed completely. So the size thing's not as important. And I look at like your Harry Thackers, your Luke Cowan-Dickie's, Jamie George's, here in England, you're all singing, dancing guys. Like they lurk on the wings, they get their ball carriers up, they tackle, they jackal, they do everything.
Never saw you on the wing.
No. I was never allowed on the wing, basically. Every system I played in, I was first man, basically first man to the ruck to clear the ruck. That was my job.
Class.
But I think it's playing to strengths. And if you look at the kind of handling skills and the carrying ability of these guys, I think there are attacking structures where you can get your hookers lurking out wide, getting those mismatches against smaller backs, not big backs like you. But that sort of matchup there between Dickie, Luke Cowan-Dickie and Chat is something I'm really looking forward to because, they just add that extra dimension to the game. They're kind of all firing, all action players. So, let's hope for high involvements from both those boys.
For sure. Well, Dylan, you played in one of the all-time great Heineken Cup finals for Saints versus Leinster. Talk us through the build-up and the occasion.
It was anything but great.
Don't cry now, mate. Don't cry.
This might be a tough one for you to relive now.
We're gonna explore.
We got to go there.
Christina here. I mean, I'm sure you're a Leinster fan, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah, there you go. That's why it's one of the all-time great finals. I actually tried forgetting about that final for a long time. And then BT Sport were like, oh, we're going to put you on and we're going to relive the final with you and Brian O'Driscoll.
Oh, wow.
And that was the first time I've ever watched the game back. And in all honesty, this is the season before HIAs came in. On the stroke of half time, I scored a try and knocked myself out in the process on Cian Healy's knee, I think it was.
Jeez.
So do you know what? Up until halftime, Saints were dominating. I think we were 3 scores clear. And I think the only difference between the teams at halftime is that Johnny Sexton apparently did this rousing kind of speech.
Yeah.
And Northampton's captain and myself went and sat in the toilets and had an emotional breakdown because I was knocked out. So that's the only thing I kind of remember from the game. And obviously watching it back, I watched the game as a whole, but watching myself, I did not look present. I was there, but I was not present. But yeah, do you know what? As a game of rugby, as a spectacle, I think, what a story. High scoring cup final. Just obviously
in the greatest city on earth.
Oh, it was. Do you know what atmosphere? It was brilliant. What I remember, what I do remember of it. And I'll just say it was a very long, sobering bus ride home the next day.
I'll pick up on one of your points you made. A lot of people don't realize this. Is that those sort of games, you never really do watch them back because they're a culmination of your season. It's the last game you'll play in the season and you don't have to review it for anything. And I've some of the biggest games I've played in, I've never watched them up until like a year ago. These games are many years back and I never watched them because at the end of your season, you literally either win or lose. You enjoy the elation of winning or you literally cry yourself to sleep with losing. You never watch it back. So I can imagine that would have been kind of really strange for you watching that back years later.
It was easier because I was retired.
Okay, yeah.
And I needed to work with BT, so I accepted. But no, you're right though. Like it's usually an emotional review. You can never come down, tactically or technically on those sorts of games. And the biggest thing with like losing a final, it feels like a waste of time. It feels like a waste of a push. All those kind of hours and games that you win in the last 10 minutes, the last 5 minutes, and all that mental energy that you put into it. When you come up short in a final, it feels like a waste. But then the other way to look at it is Northampton, we won the Premiership, but it took us 7 years to do it. We got relegated. We made 5 semi-finals, lost them all. We lost the cup final where I got red carded. And then the following year, we finally won something. So I think all those kind of setbacks and hurt and disappointments and experiences almost drove that final kind of performance where we won it. Yeah. And that's what I hope and I fear for Exeter that they don't have to lose one to come and win one. And I just hope they do it first time round.
So Dylan, would I be guessing that if I was to say to you, who do you want to win and why at the weekend, are you firmly in Exeter's corner?
Firmly, yeah. For English rugby.
Oh God.
Come on.
And I want Racing to win for completely the opposite reason, yeah.
Oh my God.
This is the problem with Welsh people, right?
Well, I played
if England are losing, they're happy.
Ex-club, the old club. I would love Racing to win it. I think they won the Brennus when Dan Carter first arrived at the club. Such a shame. It was a year after I left. They won the top 14. I just missed it by a year, but I'd love them to win Europe. You know, I love Exeter. I love what they stand for. I love what they're all about, but I'd love to see Racing win it.
What are your score predictions now then for the weekend?
I'm just hoping the weather's decent. I hope doesn't become just a tactical arm wrestle and a kicking game. I want to see backs in space because that's what I think the rugby watching public deserve to see. I am going to go Racing 20, Exeter 18.
Okay. And Dylan?
Exeter. I'm going to give him 29. And I'm going to go Racing 23. And a bit like Jamie, I want to see a good surface. I want to see Jack Noel, Henry Slade in the game, Sam Simmons, Joe Simmons doing their thing. I want all action. I want to see big scrums. I want to see pick and goes. But yeah, just not a game dominated by set piece, penalties, pick and go tries, these sorts of things.
Well, on to the Gallagher Premiership semi-finals. So obviously Exeter completely eased past Bath, 35-6. And I suppose Joe Simmons was very impressive again. What are his England prospects with Farrell and Ford around?
Look, yeah, impressive young guy, really understated. You know, again, quite pragmatic, which you need from your fly half, and he does have those kind of glimpses of brilliance. But look, it's just difficult. You know, you've got.
Is he an Eddie Jones sort of player?
I don't know. I just see international rugby about timing and opportunity. Like no one just gets invited because they're good. You know, you've got to look for a need, and does the boss and Eddie have a need for a fly half to challenge? He's got two kind of blue collar, hard-working, hard-nosed Northerners. Does he need another option at fly half? Of course he does. He's got his Marcus Smith. I'm sure he's got an eye on I was going to say Sam, but Joe. But does he have a need? So, look, I think you can't ignore the fact he's playing in two finals back to back. I think it's a hell of a shop window for him to put himself in. But I suppose as a player, you've got the opportunity now to display your talents on the biggest stage. And it's just an opportunity he's got to take and basically ask that question of Eddie Jones. But the more we talk about him, the less he'll get picked.
Well,
Eddie's his own man.
Yeah, well, this was actually going to bring me on to my next question, because speaking of Eddie, a few of the players have said that they don't like being overhyped by the media because they think that actually does affect Eddie's decision. Knowing Eddie Dillon, like, do you think the media plays any role in his selections?
No player hates being talked about in a positive light. They're just saying that. But I think probably works in favour of non-selections. So I think I saw this happen with Maro Toje. You know, Six Nations a couple of years ago, everyone was saying, pick Maro, pick Maro, pick Maro. Maro was ready to go. Like, he was good as gold. He was playing well in European rugby, Premiership rugby, doing what he does now. And Eddie was kind of just saying, he's not ready yet. He's not ready yet. And then 3 games in against Italy, he caps him. It has to be on his terms. Has to be his timing, I suppose. And Eddie's very much his own man, in my opinion, and needs to make those calls themselves and will not be kind of told what to do.
Media. It's kind of counterproductive to be talked up in the media because he's like, nah, I am making this decision up. You'd rather
it's almost out of principle that he does it, I think.
Yeah. For me, that hype around Joe Simmons is real, though. I don't think it's fake hype. I think he's a very impressive young player. Let's remember, he's only 23. He's young, and Exeter have made him captain down there. They obviously see him in a strong leadership role. You know, Dills, you captained your country on many occasions. I don't know if you were 23 when you were first name captain. That's pretty young, isn't it?
technically I was the Premiership's youngest captain at one
You
point.
are captain of the club. How old are you?
I think I was 22, 23.
Jesus, fair play. And how did
know,
how did you feel about being a captain at that age?
Yeah.
I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was shit scared, honestly. But I had good people around me. Going back to the narrative thing, I think the media kept me in a job for about 3 years because Jamie George was a far better player, and they were saying, pick Jamie George, pick Jamie George. And Eddie stuck to his guns and was like, no, I'm not going to pick him because you're telling me to. So it kind of kept me in a job. So yeah, I've got to thank the media for that, actually.
Media were working in your favour for a change.
Yeah. No,
I
wish the media were like, Dylan Hartley should not retire.
Yeah,
retire.
That would have done me. No, but going back to your Joe Simmons thing, like he is a local boy. He gets the club. There's no doubt he loves the club. He's got, family ties there. And if you look at Exeter, the way they've recruited, we touched on this last week, really understated kind of signings, not obvious signings. Mm-hmm. And he's got good experience there around him. He's got a core of kind of England internationals. He's got good, I don't want to say journeyman, but experienced Irish players there. Got a good couple of Scottish internationals. So he's got plenty of people around him. And Jamie, like captaincy, there's far more to it. It's not just one person, is it? There's so many kind of contributing factors to that role. And you've got to throw someone in there at some point. Mm-hmm. And he could do that for the next...
kind of grow in the role.
Yeah, like let him learn, let him grow, let him, make mistakes and mm-hmm. let him grow, because in 7 years' time, when he's 30 years old and hopefully still at Exeter, still playing, like look at the experience and the sort of the stalwart and kind of talisman kind of story he could build for himself there. So yeah, all power to him. Good young kid, good young player. Just hope he goes well in these next 2 weeks.
Well, in the other semi-final, Wasps defeated Bristol 47-24. There was another big performance from Jack Willis, 19 turnovers in 7 games, similar to Simmons. How long can it be before he's capped by England? Again, is this just down to all the media hype? He's not going to get capped?
I think there's media hype, and then he's literally kicking the door down. He's saying, pick me, in a very polite manner. My only question to, I suppose, you guys and just the general rugby listeners, if we've got any listeners, is like, who do you displace? Who do you drop out of your England back row? Do you get rid of a Curry? Do you get rid of an Underhill, Billy Vunipola? Who goes where? Because we've all got our favourite players, but only kind of two flankers can play. So, Underhill, Jamie, you watched him closely with Bath the other day.
Like, yeah, look,
he's going good guns.
Those
right?
3 back rowers can't start every game. So I think England are in a bloody healthy place if they've got 4 or 5 of those guys knocking on the door. For me, Willis plays like that throughout the season. He'll start at 6 for the Lions. He's that impressive. He's got everything. I think he's powerful. I think he's wonderful over the ball. He's so abrasive. His contact area skills are arguably unmatched in England at the minute. You look at the number of turnovers he's won. I think he's on like 45, and the next person's on about 20. The stats are that far away. He's mightily impressive in the contact area. Who do you displace? It's a good question. He's going to get an opportunity. It's a question, Dills, you made the point earlier. Does he take it? How many players have we seen be brilliant in club rugby, and then when it comes to the sink or swim of test rugby, they freeze. They don't take their chance, and we don't see him for another few years. Let's remember Jack Willis likely would have got capped by England 2 years ago before he blew out his knee. And, it's a testament to him that he's come back in the form he has. His rehab, he's obviously been very diligent, and he's performing now for Wasps when it really matters. And so for me, there's no doubt he has to be given opportunity over this next season to show if he can swim in an England jersey.
Do you know what? You bang on. You bang on, Jamie. Like he's got the shop window. He's got that Premiership final to basically step up to the big stage and ask the question to selectors. And if you look at the position, it's such an attritional position. The amount of impacts that back row has taken a game, 6 Nations, autumn internationals coming up. There's rotation, there's injuries, there's opportunities present themselves there. So I think without too much media hype, we will see him sniffing in and around Eddie Jones's squad.
That's exciting for him. Well, we'll preview the Premiership final in more depth next week, but I want to get some listener questions that came in on social media. So the first is from Callum Coves on Twitter. Boys, what's the best game you played against each other? Jamie, I think I know yours. Any idea what game he's talking about?
Oh, there'll be a few against England. Look, I've probably lost more to England than I've won down the years. Certainly, I remember, that last-minute try by Elliot Daly in the corner in Cardiff still haunts me because we didn't kick the ball off the park. Dills, I'm not sure if you played in that one.
I only played to about 40 minutes.
Oh, did you?
I was hooked off at 50, 60 minutes in most games. So
Shepherd's crook. Look, I've had some amazing experience against England. Obviously, the World Cup one is incredible. That 2013 game in Cardiff was just everything went our way, and we blew England off the park. It was 30 points.
For me, growing up in New Zealand, I always watched All Blacks Australia, that Bledisloe kind of test, that rivalry, that neighbourly love. Mm-hmm. And England Wales is as close as that's the same sort of love. I would call it love or rivalry.
Yeah.
And always playing at home at Twickenham was great because you're on home turf and it is more comfortable. But I think the best games, I can't pick a specific, but when you're away from home, it's tribal. There's conflict in the air. You're up against it. The atmosphere at the Millennium or the Principality, sorry. I don't know what it's called anymore. Cardiff.
Yeah. Keep sponsors happy, mate.
Is brilliant. And that's what makes it such a kind of, when it's hostile, that's what makes the occasion even better. Yeah. And to snatch kind of victory from the jaws of death with an Elliot Daly kind of last minute try and things like that, those are the ones that are worth it. But equally, we in that Grand Slam decider, did you play in that, Jay?
In 2013, yeah.
Yeah,
one of the best seasons of my life, huh?
It was I came off the bench and that the game was well and truly gone by that point. But it was one of those kind of moments just as a competitor, the game was gone. Like I came on with 30 to go and the scoreboard was just ticking over nicely for Wales. But to be a part of that, you got to sit back and go, this means a lot to the Welsh people. This atmosphere is amazing. Wales are on fire. Just to be there, to experience that and to have that kind of that heartache. Because again, when we finally won a couple of Six Nations, those are the kind of experiences and setbacks that kind of drove those wins in the twilight years of my career. So no, just to take part in a Wales-England fixture was always pretty special.
Yeah,
nice.
Look, I remember about that 2013 game from a Welsh perspective. Yeah, we talk about this kind of love we have with England, love-hate kind of relationship. From a Welsh perspective, you can picture it now, can't you? You're a Welsh player. England are coming down the M4 with one hand on the Grand Slam. And as a Welsh guy, there is absolutely no way you are losing that game. Because if you lose it, it's going to haunt you for the rest of your life. The thought of the English lads parading the Grand Slam trophy around the Principality Stadium, I wouldn't be seen dead in the streets of Cardiff for years if I lost that game. It was that sort of kind of pressure. And I remember we trained terribly in the week. I remember it vividly. Like everyone was on edge, everyone was dead nervous, and we couldn't even get to the ball to the winger without dropping it. And we just had this look, there was this look in the morning. You got up, team room, team bus, change rooms. You're just looking around the lads saying, we're just not going to lose. It's just one of those, you just can't lose. It's not even an option to even contemplate it. So, yeah, special day. But I completely agree with you, Dills, with those earlier experiences in your career. I remember 2009, Ireland did exactly that. They won the Grand Slam in Cardiff and they paraded the trophy around the Millennium Stadium in 2009. And one of the toughest days of my career for sure. And that hurt, the hurt from losing the semi-final in 2011 in the World Cup, went on to inspire that group that went on to get success in 12 and 13. So those earlier moments of pain, actually, when you look back and reflect, those are what drive you.
So Dylan, a question came in for you on Instagram. Who would Dylan choose to start at hooker for England right now?
The obvious debate is Luke Cowan-Dickie, Jamie George. Jamie George obviously holds that shirt, is proven in that shirt. Luke Cowan-Dickie playing in 2 finals in 2 weeks, obviously going to push. Tom Dunn been going great guns at Bath, does the basics really, really well. A thicker Thacker out of Bristol looks impressive. But look, I think the shirt is still Jamie George's to lose. And like I said, all Luke Cowan-Dickie can do is kind of perform these next 2 weeks, win, play well, and push and wait for an opportunity. Because look, international rugby, like once a coach has worked with a player for a while, there's an element of trust there. He knows what he's going to get from that player. And I know Eddie knows exactly what he's going to get from Jamie. Jamie's well experienced now. Luke's been around the squad for a long time. So I think those two are your front runners, and I'd expect those kind of opening tests to be Jamie with Luke coming off the bench. But I'd look forward to. I talked to Jamie the other day. I'm looking forward to him bloody suffering like I do with someone breathing down his neck. I think that competitive element will only kind of drive his game further as well, because he's still young enough to play.
Yeah.
And can you see him playing in the Championship this year? If those Saracens lads hit an absolute jackpot, that they'll only play Test rugby, really. They're not going to be playing Jersey away, are they?
Oh, I don't know. I think they're going to have to get a few games in to keep ticking over, but I can't see them playing week to week. Jamie, I'm sure you'd agree, but I think the dream as an international player is to play international rugby and then top up with a couple of European games, a couple of big domestic fixtures, a little bit like the Irish players seem to do so well. I think from an English point of view, for the international team to win consistently and challenge consistency for silverware in whatever competition, I think, central contracting is somewhere they need to go. God knows how they do it. This isn't a political podcast. But for me, I think central contracts and player management is how they do it.
Right. We have to talk about the game of the weekend. New Zealand and Australia drew 16 all. What a match.
Fascinating game. Like, it was amazing. First of all, brilliant to see Test rugby back in front of the crowd. It kind of looked alien, didn't it? It's weird. But amazing game in the drizzle. Some brilliant tries. Incredible that the ABs didn't step up and go for a drop goal. I'm not quite sure what happened there. It's just one of those, like, we went through this. We've talked about the semi-final we played against France, and it will forever haunt me in the World Cup in 2011. We were camped on their line about 10 meters out for 3-4 minutes around, the 75th, 76th minute of the game. And we didn't take a drop goal. And just on reflection, it's bizarre.
Yeah.
Because when you're in the heat of the moment, no one really goes for it, and no one really kind of understands the consequences of having a shot. At least have a shot. A few phases later, Australia turn over the ball and the game's a draw. But they'll learn so much from that. Someone like Mwanga, he's probably not been in that position before, and that's his learning curve, isn't it? If he's in that position again now, picture it now, 3 years' time, All Blacks in the World Cup final in France, 79 minutes on the clock. Up steps Mwanga, and he looks back to last weekend's game, and there was his learning.
I want to start a trend, bring back the droppy. It's easy points, keep scoreboard ticking over. I'd like to see more front rowers kicking the ball.
Well, classic Matt Dunning. Jeez,
the best.
It's the best video ever.
Why did he? It was almost like it wasn't celebrated though. Like,
yeah, because they needed the bonus point. They needed a try. Basically, they needed a try. They needed a try for the bonus point. And so what he does, he went for the drop goal, nails it from about 50 meters out, and he's a front row player. And all the lads are like, "Mate, what the fuck are you doing?"
He kind of went, he celebrated. You saw his face just. He should be celebrated.
As captain, who makes that call in those situations when it comes to kind of whether you take the drop goal or not? Is it down to the individual player, or would you be shouting in someone's ear, or how does that work?
Personally, from me, if we were in that scenario, we would have practiced for that scenario. But like we've alluded to earlier in the pod, like the only reason you practice those scenarios is through experience. You know, there would have been a game that we didn't take an opportunity or try and convert, or lost the game by 2 points because we didn't take a drop goal. Then we would have practiced that routine. We would have talked about that scenario. You know, circa 10 minutes left on the clock. Are we still chasing a try? Or what are we doing? So it's all scenario-based, classroom-based stuff that I've done in the past. The worst thing you can do, right, kind of line out, bash your 12 up, get your forwards around the corner, go into a pick and go scenario. Because you know what happens then? Everyone's like, they're going to go for a drop goal. And the whole defense kind of condenses. The fly halves drop back in the pocket.
Yeah.
You know, he's got 14 people ready to run at him. The best kind of drop goal attempts is where you've still got width on your attack. Your wingers are out wide. You've got two sides to attack, so the defense is kind of spread thin, and the focus is actually off your fly half or whoever's going to take that drop goal. Because as soon as you just put all your eggs in one basket and say we're going to do a drop goal, like that pressure just amounts and amounts and amounts, and the shot never gets taken. And when it does, they often fluff it. Like the best ones is when you got all options on. You can run and either side, you can pass and score on the corner, or you can just ping it back. It takes a lot of heat off.
I want to score a drop goal in my professional career before I retire.
I think you got to do it. I think you have to start putting in the practice now. That'd be
The
very
rugby
exciting.
the rugby gods work in funny ways, though. The one time I actually attempted a chip and chase in a game, I went to kick the ball, but I ended up kicking the ground and I sprained my ankle. It was against Ospreys. So like I learned my lesson there was to never, ever kick the ball. And even at England training, one time in training, I found myself on the wing, actually, Jamie. And I kind of grubbered the ball ahead, and Eddie was like, "What the hell are you doing, mate? What sort of an example is that?" And he's like, "The only player in the forwards that is allowed to kick the ball is Mako. Like Mako can just do whatever he wants." And during that Six Nations earlier in the year, I saw George Cruz kick the ball twice, and I almost saw his head I just saw him just sink because I just knew post match or halftime Eddie would have been saying, "What are you doing, mate?" But he was retiring, so he was playing with no fear, which I love.
Well, speaking of mistakes, Rico Ione dropped the ball over the line, one hand.
Oh, like it happens, doesn't it? So he won't do it again. He's got the try celebration though, Ioane. He's got this dive where he dives, puts the ball down with one hand in front of him. He's always done it. So whenever he came on the test scene, that's the way he scores tries. And unfortunately, this time it slipped out of his hand. So whether he just has to revisit that technique, he probably won't. You'll continue a la Chris Ashton doing the Ash Splash.
Oh, God.
Or his equivalent. But yeah, I'm trying to think if I've ever had any embarrassing tales like that. The best one of those I've seen is your man Will Carling playing sevens for Harlequins and getting carried over the dead ball line when he weighs about 7 stone, soaking wet, and he tries to be a bit cocky behind the try line, trying to get closer to the posts, and these two brutes on the opposition team just pick him up and chuck him over the dead ball line. Again, a great clip on YouTube if you want to see Will Carling getting embarrassed.
I think London Irish, Leguizamon, he goes the length and he does like a big swan dive, and the ball, like in slow motion, you can just see the shock and fear in his face as the ball's dropping out of his hand. There can't be many worse than the Freddie Burns kind of fist pump against Toulouse. And then
Jesus, I mean, I played in that game, and that was really tough because we had Toulouse beat. We had Toulouse beat at home. And yeah, I mean, that happened. But it's so hard, isn't it? You win and lose as a team. You know, everyone at the end of the game is like, "Oh my God," like Fred, you know, that's an error. But it could honestly happen to any one of us. You know, you could put the ball down. It's, you know, shit happens, as I say, and you've got to kind of take it on the chin. But when the stakes are so high, it's hard, isn't it? I remember my first try for Cardiff Blues, actually. Di Young was coach back then. And Di was a very dry character, very sarcastic bloke, but serious, you know. And from about 40 meters out, I used to play on the wing, believe it or not. And I was running down the wing, score against Newport. at Rodney Parade, and I celebrated about 10 meters out, and that gave the covering fullback time to come over, and I managed just to get the ball down in the corner. Fast forward 2 days, sorry, I'm in Monday and a training Monday, and I walked down the corridor, and Di Young is walking past me on the corridor, and he just stops me and said, "Jamie, you ever do that again, you will never play for Cardiff Blues again," and just walked off.
What did you say?
I was 20. I just shat myself. I was like, "Oh, sorry, Di." He gave me a massive bollocking for celebrating too early, and I've never done it again. Saying that, I don't score many tries.
That is why you need to respect players like Chris Ashton. When Martin
himself.
Johnson, Stuart Lancaster tell them not to do the swan dive, and then he does it like live. He just does not care. Like, he loves it.
That is all from us this week. Thanks to Jamie Roberts and Dylan Hartley, and thank you guys for listening. More offloading next week, and we'll hopefully even have a European champion on the panel. Make sure you are subscribed to us wherever you get your podcasts so you get the show as soon as it's released, and make sure you leave us a rating and review, and don't forget to check us out on YouTube as well. Thanks, guys.